I noticed that.
Great. Appreciate everybody joining this morning. It's I don't know what it's like where you are, but we're having a very windy day here in the San Fernando Valley. This whole week has been insanely windy, and yesterday was nice. It actually dropped down and was a calm day, and now it's coming back. But we're heading towards our first rain event of the year of any sort. So we're after having the 100-degree temperatures for way too long, the fact that we're going to get 2 to 3 inches of rain this week, we're looking forward to it. So it's better than people like Carolyn are probably getting 2 to 3 inches of snow. So
no, we got about 8 inches of snow, and it's windy today too. Yeah. So, but it's almost
and actually, Bill, will be our second rain event. We did have the hurricane earlier this summer.
That's true. That was the summer one. This is what I'm looking forward to.
First winter one. You're right.
Yeah. But they're saying this is going to be a big El Nino year and wet for us. So I'm really hoping that's the case. The hills have, after that one that you mentioned, Brock, the hills have gone brown, then they came back green after that storm, and it's just going back to brown. So I'm glad the rain is coming along. Well, we have a bunch of movies today, and they're going to take us all over the place. So let me get this one started. 1 second, and I will share the screen. 1 second here. Okay, share screen. All right, share sound, optimize for video. Okay, this is a souvenir film from 1979. If you collect souvenir movies of the park, one of the problems is if you collect anything with the title A Day at Disneyland, so far I've found 5 different versions of A Day at Disneyland. In some cases, the differences are really small. Like in some of them, they all, and make it even more complicated, they all have the same serial number, 2509. And basically the only way you can tell their difference is by watching the movie, because in some cases the boxes are identical and then the movie is different. And in one case it's very small. They had opened Mr. Lincoln in the park, so they're out on Main Street and they go to a clip, maybe 3-4 seconds of Lincoln, and they took 3 or 4 seconds of something else out. But like I said, you get it and you go, I see them on eBay all the time, and I'm not going to buy any more days at Disneyland. In this particular case, I bought a different film, and this was spliced onto the end of it. Like others that I've shown, it was bright red. It was a silent 8mm film. I did a job as well as I could in restoring the color. I found somebody that had the soundtrack on their bright red version that they had not restored on YouTube, and I put the two of them together. So we'll see. Let me just bring this right back to the very beginning, and we'll see how well I did on this particular one.
Welcome to the happiest place on earth, where young and old alike step into a world of magic and make-believe. Join us as we spend a day at Disneyland.
What year is this from?
1979.
Here we find ourselves in Town Square, starting point for our Disneyland tour. This happy group has already begun to discover the hospitality and excitement found throughout the Magic Kingdom. While aboard one of the many old-time vehicles, we pass Mickey Mouse, who is now outside the Walt Disney Story. Now we begin our trip down Main Street, USA, where the charm of the 1890s is everywhere. This turn-of-the-century lane is lined on both sides by quaint shops and restaurants. Each specialty shop adds to the nostalgic atmosphere and charm. Sleeping Beauty Castle overlooks Plaza Park, the gateway to all kinds of wonderful adventures. It's here where we'll leave our friends and begin to explore the various themed lands that await us. It looks as though our friend wants her balloon to have a few exciting adventures of its own. So it takes to the sky. Let's follow along on a grand circle tour of Disneyland. Here we enter the exciting Adventureland and the faraway tropics. Our journey takes us to the Thatched Bazaar, then onward to the Jungle River Cruise, waiting for anyone who'll dare embark on a trip through the placid yet dangerous waters of the unknown jungle channels. Then into the pages of classic literature with a walk through the Swiss family treehouse, where a wrecked ship has become an island home. And just next door, we pass a swashbuckling adventure if ever there was one, the Pirates of the Caribbean. New Orleans Square authentically captures both the elegance and zest of mid-19th century Louisiana. One can dine at any of the several restaurants, listen to the Dixie and ragtime music, and browse through the colorful marts filled with treasures from around the world. On the outskirts of the square, for those brave enough, is the Haunted Mansion, a place filled with ghoulish delights. Next, we enter Bear Country. This rustic woodland community is nestled in the pine-covered hills that line the rivers of America. But it's not always this quiet, because right nearby is the home of the zany Country Bear Jamboree, where Henry, Teddy Bear, and the whole bear gang whoop up a musical storm. Floating onward, we enter the beautiful river country and set sail aboard the realistic Columbia. Ways to travel these waters: the Mark Twain, the keelboats, the rafts, and the canoes. Something for everyone. We dock in Frontierland and drift into the Old West, where we're greeted by Slewfoot Sue's Golden Horseshoe Review. Inside is a fast-paced, heel-kicking Wild West show. The legends say that this peaceful-looking mine is anything but peaceful. Of course, you'd have to ride Big Thunder Mountain Railroad to fully understand. Just down the trail is the Frontierland Shooting Gallery. Numerous Old West stores and exhibits are also found in this land. Now we enter Fantasyland, where make-believe becomes reality. Pirate ship is anchored at the edge of Fantasyland, just across the crystal clear harbor waters from Skull Rock. Again, we return to the sky and pass Storybook Land as we float toward the incredible It's a Small World attraction. The Matterhorn has always offered the thrill of bobsled racing, and now hidden deep within the snow-covered peak is a menacing creature who roams the dark caves and passages. The futuristic monorail continues its route across the submarine lagoon, signaling our entrance into Tomorrowland. One can journey to Mars and take a trip through inner space, ride the Skyway and dance to the stars. Also featured here is the animatronic musical America Sings, and an intergalactic voyage through the universe, whizzing past meteors, constellations, spaceships, and more within the fantastic Space Mountain. The Disneyland trains circle the Magic Kingdom in grand style. Some of these locomotives were actually in operation as early as 1894. It looks as though we're not the only ones to have arrived back at Main Street Station. Our friends have returned here too. But what's this? Well, look what's coming back. This is a wonderful surprise indeed. So we say goodbye to our friends, knowing we'll see them again, because truly, Disneyland is the happiest, the most amazing place on earth.
Now, I think you could almost call that a day of things that are no longer at Disneyland. I mean,
including the long lines and the crowds. They weren't there either.
What's that?
I didn't see the long lines and crowds either. They were also gone.
No, but when
That's a modern innovation.
you go through it and you go, well, let's see, the country bears are gone, and one thing after another is gone. What I found was interesting, you talk about our new great attraction of Big Thunder. Did you notice there was no footage of Big Thunder? Well, it's because we were still building it and finishing it to open it in 1979. So all you could do is get a picture of this rocky spear sticking up, because it wasn't done and operational when they filmed the movie. But I thought it was a fun look. Last week we had seen another film called Disneyland from Dream to Reality, and it had the same little closing shot of the little girl jumping up and kicking her feet in the air. So somebody at Disney liked it enough that gal, they stuck her in a couple of things.
I thought it was interesting at the very beginning. They made sure to show that the mother paid for the balloons. Did you see that? She handed the guy the coins and he acted like he put them in his in his pouch. But it was like, why did they have to show that scene? I wonder. They wanted to not think that the balloons were free,
That's probably it. I sat there watching when they got on the car to go down Main Street. I said, he didn't take their tickets, so
yeah.
But I was thinking of you. I was working on this one, Brock, so I hope I matched the audio up better for you.
Oh yeah, the audio was real good. It actually because it doesn't sync with anything you're specifically seeing as far as the sound. They're trying to recreate like the train whistle going off or something like that, and it just seemed to match pretty good. I thought so.
Yeah, so there's Mickey in front of the Walt Disney story. So
But
he moves quick. He moves quick.
An empty car on Main Street. What are the odds of finding an empty car on Main Street? Not too good.
These days, no, it's crazy. So, but yeah, that's one of the 5 versions I have so far of a day at Disneyland, and I'm sure that another one will come along. And like I said, I'm not buying them anymore. If they happen to be tacked on to something else, I've bought. That's great.
Are they still making anything like that for the new Disneyland stuff at all, or are people just not buying that sort of stuff anymore because they can do their own with their phones?
They don't even sell this stuff anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know when they did the last of the 8mm films. It was sometime in the 80s, I believe. But it's pretty much all gone now because everybody's got their own camcorder and everything. So they
yeah, and your phone, you can just do it on your phone. But I didn't know if people still wanted souvenirs if they had electronic versions that had been updated to the new stuff at the parks or anything.
No, back when I was doing a project for Disney, we were talking about a retro thing for Disneyland, and I was brought in to work on a parade concept, and that was one of the things we were talking about was how do we make it retro, and we were saying, okay, we take the the old movies like we just saw, and we could stick them on a VHS cassette. That was the big thing at the time. And they didn't even want to put out VHS cassettes of this stuff. Back then, I think that would have sold, just as well as an 8 millimeter movie would have sold. But I mean, the only VHS you can really get back then, they did do one. It was you could write to the Disney company and they would send you like a travel video. They did put one of them out, and I'm trying to recall. It's another one of the Day at Disneyland's, but it's done where the train is coming out of the into the New Orleans. Or actually, it's coming to the Frontierland station, and they have it's about a 16-minute thing. And they found that the cost of doing a 16-minute video just for the shell and the box and everything else, that you had to charge so much for it, people didn't buy them. So I think they did the one on video, and that was about the end of it.
They used to, you could you could get a DVD of attractions and things if you contacted their travel company, Walt Disney Travel Company.
Yeah,
they would send you a pack, and Amanda and I used to get them every year, which basically had a tour of every park on it on DVD.
Yeah, the travel planner videos, and I've got about 6 of those I have to digitize.
Mhm.
So this next one is, as long as we're talking about things they don't do anymore, and the things have changed. Back then, if you wanted to get a movie, you had to buy, the thing on. Well, I've got a whole bunch of the ones, black and white excerpts of Snow White because color was too expensive or whatever. This next one is kind of interesting. Anybody remember a TV show Disneyland did called Yellowstone Cubs? It's a great little story, and basically we're going to see it now. But a bear, mother bear has 2 bear cubs. They get loose from her, and she goes off on a search for them through Yellowstone Park. So let me bring this one up here. Let me just bring it back, and I'll share the screen. This is going to be silent, but this is again what passed for home entertainment back in this period of time. So share screen. Okay.
Silence is probably better than that Casio keyboard soundtrack they had on the last one.
Well, right here, this was bright red. I mean, as magenta as they come, but I got some color back out of it. You'll see. So this is released theatrically as a short subject, Yellowstone Cubs, and then it was an episode of the TV show. So we're going to get a good example here of Darwinism at its best.
Oh my gosh.
She's not content. She has to lean down and kiss the bear. It's amazing to watch this stuff. So yeah, again, this was all done, in a sound TV show and everything, but for the home video market, they just put this out, as a silent movie. So here's Junior getting some snacks. Oh wow, Daddy's gonna go feed the bears. Mommy's checking his insurance.
Yeah, leave the food cooler open so all the bears can climb in.
Well, you've peeked ahead, Irv. Oh, spoiler alert! Irv just ruined the movie for us.
Yeah, that's a heck of a cooler.
A mother with cubs, and he's walking.
Oh,
Up here we would call that a definite death sentence.
What's that?
I said up here, if you did that in Rocky Mountain National Park, it'd be a definite death sentence.
Oh yeah,
or an arrest.
It's probably trained bears that they're using for this. I'm sure.
Oh, sure.
I don't think that
they were, but unfortunately, I've been to Yellowstone a couple of times, and the damn tourists do this. And every year there's a story about somebody that goes out to pet a moose and they get headbutted and killed, or stupid people. So, oh wow, where are my kids? And Yellowstone, of course, in the TV or the movie version here, being so small, the mother can follow them and go from point A to point B, at incredible speeds.
I think I have this movie with sound, Bill.
Do you? I have it on video. Did they put out a sound version of this 2 and 8 millimeter?
Oh no, not 8 millimeter. No, like you said, video VHS.
No, this is 8 millimeter.
Yeah, and we used to go back to Yellowstone back in those days, and this is exactly how it was. I remember my dad having a tub of honey that he gave a bear, and they'd come up and stick their heads in our windows of the cars, and they'd sit on our, we stayed in the cabins there, the Hamilton cabins,
Yeah.
and the bears would come sit on our porch waiting for us to come out so they could interact with us. And it was just a whole different time, and then of course, kind of like Caroline's alluding to, they decided we need to keep the bears wild, and they went the other direction. But back then, I know it's awful, but it was fun. It was so cool to be able to, have all the bears right there. But, yeah. Oh, here they're showing one that was bad.
Yeah, this is the mother
Had to
bear.
be.
She was tearing up the campsite looking for her kids. Yeah, when I was out the first time in 1967, everybody was feeding the bears. But the trouble is, people are even stupider than they are today. Or then
Oh, yeah.
or then.
It was just sort of common behavior. So I'm talking about like the 57. Was
Right.
probably, yeah.
So poor Nokomis is going to get the mark of shame put on her head.
How long's that
Yeah.
last?
Last long enough,
There
I
was a
guess.
drive-through animal park in Great Adventure, New Jersey, and people used to feed all the animals. It got to be too dangerous. You can't drive through there anymore.
No, this is a job I don't want. You have to stand there and let the bear in. Now, what if the bear turns around and comes right at you? Says, I'm paying you back for that paint on my head.
Their equivalent of a prison tattoo.
Look how, yeah, it looks so sad.
When does the paint wear off?
Takes about a year, I think, as they shed their hair. This one I got a real kick out of. This is the guy has just caught his fish, and he's showing the wife, but he evidently has not bothered to turn off the boat, because most of us don't turn off our boats, right?
Right. Yeah, I love this.
Hey, bring back my boat.
Yeah.
Now we're going to see who wins in a contest of man versus boat. Anybody want to make a bet while there's still time?
The boat will win.
Boat wins.
Boat wins always. Boat always wins.
Later, the bears go water skiing.
What an idiot.
He's a stunned idiot, right?
Funny.
Up here we could say if it's a fed bear, it's a dead bear, because they
Yeah.
always then try to come back and get
Yeah.
into people's houses.
Yeah. And it's very sad.
Well, what
But
they do-
for humans just did a 180. It was like, oh, we want to, hang out with the bears and be around the bears. So my dad was fishing, and he caught, a bunch of fish at the lake, and he was cleaning them, and this black bear comes and slaps a paw down next to him on his right hand side, and then my dad turns to go to the left, and there's the bear's muzzle, her face right there. And so my dad takes the fish guts, waves them in front of the bear's snout, and throws them. And the bear took after the fish guts, and he grabbed his fish and ran and jumped in the car.
Now, this again is Hollywood magic. They go instantly from the lake to the Old Faithful, which they are nowhere near each other if you know the park in reality.
Right.
I got a kick here. The kitchen apparently in this particular hotel is upstairs, which may be the case. But I also got a kick out of, you wonder how many takes they did here, because look at the kitchen right here. Hopefully they've already been destroying some of it before that shot was done. But rolling pins on the floor and now everything.
Well, the Board of Health will red flag that.
Yeah. If you do get a chance to see this, I think it may actually be on Disney Plus. I'm not sure. It's actually a very cute film. It runs about 30 minutes long. Where I think this particular one runs about 8 minutes, something like that. So it's way cut down. And Mom has already found her way back from the middle of the wilderness to wherever they dropped her off, and she's coming back to Old Faithful.
Yeah, I believe this is on Disney Plus. I think I've seen it. I was wondering where I remembered it.
It's a cute little film, and it's also made so much better by Rex Allen's narration. This, when I was watching this, it reminded me of a trip we took with my grandfather and my brother and cousin to a place called Letchworth State Park, upstate New York. And we were trying to get a raccoon to come into our cabin. And if you think about what the raccoon probably would have done about what the bears are doing.
Yep, confirmed. Yellowstone Cubs on Disney Plus.
Yeah, so everybody go watch it. It's a fun show.
Now they're going to put another white mark on the poor bear's head.
No, they're getting ready to come and kill it now because basically it's one strike or two strikes, you're out. So as they watch the show, they explain that because she came back and can't be trusted, they're going to have to take care of her and whatever euphemism they use. But you'll see
It's not the bear's fault.
You'll see when the guy gets out, he gets out with a rifle, and it's not a dart gun. Just she's looking for the Cubs, and in they come. And don't worry, don't get scared. It ends well. Well, look at that there, Floyd.
She's a mommy.
Mommy, you got something on your head.
Oh,
That ain't honey.
that film reversal trick they just did, it was something they did a lot in these nature films.
Yep. And off they go back into the wilderness. So I've got a bunch of others of this particular ilk and time, and won't do all of them now. But let's jump into some Disneyland. Let's see. I'm gonna reel 47. Where'd you go? Well, actually, before I get into Disneyland, anybody here from the Pittsburgh area?
Philadelphia, close enough.
This is a small kiddie park in Pittsburgh, or it was a small kiddie park, closed, I think, in 1979. But this was a pretty good sized park. Evidently, there were two of them in Pittsburgh. And if you were from one side of town, you went to this park, the other side of town, you went to the other one. But I thought this guy did a pretty good job of capturing this sort of place that many of us went to over the years.
Do you know the name of it?
Westview Park.
We had that ride, the Scrambler, here in Utah, amusement park called
No,
Lagoon.
it's all over.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was an out of the box ride.
Yeah, okay.
I loved it. I used to ride whenever I could get on it.
Yeah.
Feels like a slingshot effect when you're on it.
Yeah, I thought this guy that everything going around in circles. I was just reading a review of the Great America Park up in Santa Clara, and they said there something like 19 the rides there throw people in circles. So very definitely a theme park thing. But I thought the guy did a nice job on this. Again, this is an unknown date, but it's 8mm, and I thought it came out fairly good for the limitations of an 8mm film. And I thought he did a pretty good job of capturing the action.
You ever notice those circular rides always go counterclockwise, never clockwise?
No, never noticed that. Do you know a reason for it, or is it just happen to be
I
that
have no
way?
idea.
It keeps the nuts on the bolts. Otherwise they'd come off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this one I was watching this and said, think about that. This is the same ride that Disneyland has as Dumbo, but isn't it much more exciting to fly an elephant than a helicopter? It's
It was
just
counterclockwise.
part of what made Walt and the original Imagineers so special from my point of view.
That Ferris wheel is booking.
Evidently, this was a very popular park, and then the other competition in town did a $1 million expense of. Oh, this is a scary character. I mean, I wouldn't want to run into this today. But the other park put $1 million, I think, log flume ride in, and it was basically the beginning and the end for this one. They just couldn't keep up with the capital spending, and the other one is something Kennywood. Something
It's
like
Kennywood. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was looking it up. Yeah, Kennywood.
right.
Still there, very popular.
Let me introduce you to centrifugal force. Hey, that one was going clockwise. Now, I don't know where this is. It does not look like Philadelphia or Pittsburgh with the hills in the back. But the Air Force used to give away airplanes like this for people to stick in their what you call it, town parks. Travel Town out here, that was an amphibious vehicle. Travel Town out here in LA in Griffith Park had a number of jets and things that were given to them over the years. And then they later realized, oh my goodness, these things are really valuable and one of a kind. Let's restore them and put them in museums. So now we're going to go visit Disneyland in 1967. So we start with our tiki birds. Do we want to do a sing along? Let's all sing like the birdies sing.
I was going to ask if this has sound because my laptop still has this bug that suppresses music.
Sorry, what was that?
My laptop has a bug that suppresses music, so I was wondering if this had sound.
No, this doesn't have sound. This is just a home movie.
Yeah, I had to go to YouTube to see last week's video so I could get the do-do-do song stuck in my head.
Yeah, I bear no responsibility for earworms. We're going back to Disneyland in about 3 weeks or so. We were there about 2 months ago, 3 months ago. Carol can correct me. But we went on the Jungle Cruise, and it was still entertaining. We had a very entertaining tour guide who, very hammy, kept telling the same bad jokes and everything, and it's still just fun. This is where Bear Country is or was. The ring out here, the kids all joined in, got to do the dance at the end of the Indian performance. Phil unfortunately had a few hairs in the camera gate. It's been a
So
while.
when we saw it,
Sorry, go ahead.
when we saw you there at Disneyland, Carrie and I think we went on Jungle Cruise 3 or 4 times, and there was hardly a single repeat joke. I was just like, wow. Tons of new material.
I don't think you can go too far off script if they're getting in trouble.
I think like anything else, that it all depends if how far you go off on it.
Yeah.
I told a story about when Carol and I were at Disney World, and they realized I was management getting on the Jungle Cruise. The guy was scared to death, and I told him, just relax. I'm on my day off. Have a good time.
I love Jungle Cruise.
And we go from there into the 20,000 leagues. Well, actually, the submarine voyage, it's not 20,000 leagues at Disneyland.
So why they eliminate the ride?
It's back. It's back at California. The one in Florida had huge maintenance issues and leakage problems. So because it's a very expensive ride to operate, and they didn't want to spend the money to repair the submarine lagoon, they took it out. But the one in Florida, the California still here. The submarines have been painted yellow as research submarines, and now you get to go out and interact with the Finding Nemo characters.
Yeah, it's all projection stuff. I don't like it very much.
No. This one I got a kick. We're taking a ride on the People Mover.
Missed that.
Yeah, miss it. That was a really neat way to go and tour the park.
It was a long People Mover compared to the one in Disney World. It was much longer.
Yes. Yeah, because it goes through other areas, not just, around Tomorrowland and back.
Mhm.
So that's that one. We got another one from Disneyland. Going back to 1960 for this one.
You never run out of films to show.
Yeah, I may have shown this one at one time in the past, but I did a further restoration on it. So I figured we'll spend some time back in 1960. So that is California Adventure today.
There's a story of how they brought one of the Imagineers out. I forget who it was. John Hench, and
John Hench,
they
yeah.
showed him California Adventure. And he said, "What do you think?" He said, "I liked it better as a parking lot."
Yep.
Don, have you been there
To Disneyland?
to California Adventure?
Oh yeah,
Recently?
many times.
Oh, good.
I like California Adventure, but when they first opened it,
Right.
it was a little lacking. I actually thought the park got a bit of a bum rap. I had fun there my first time, even, but it's improved a great deal since it's opened.
The
Well,
trouble was,
there were a lot of shows that the first time you saw them was enough. That was the
Mhm.
problem. They weren't allowed to kind of enhance them as they developed it. And later on, they've added a lot of new stuff. There were a few rides that were quite good, but some of the stuff, it's like, okay, I've seen that. I don't need to see it again.
do you remember Brock Superstar limo ride?
Sure.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, it was bought off the shelf, thrown together. It was absolutely embarrassing to have inside a Disney park. It was absolutely dreadful.
Well, yeah, the agent was the most, it was a Danny DeVito kind of character, and he was just so obnoxious. It's like, why would I want to be a star and have that guy as my agent? No, thank you.
Yeah.
But the whole concept was kind of a weird concept.
Yeah. It's
A lot, of
awful.
a lot of the figures were reused for the Monsters Inc. ride, so you see all these strange characters and strange poses. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. No, they did that, with a couple of things that they just bought, totally off the shelf. As I mentioned earlier, one of the things that I liked, here's the fishing pier, people out catching real fish. No, I mean, when they did the original Disneyland, don't have you flying a generic helicopter ride, let's make it flying elephants. So when they opened the California Adventure, they had things like the Maliboomer ride was exactly like the ride you could get on the road and get on at Knott's Berry Farm. There was no theming, nothing special. There's a stagecoach going off in the background. I mean, an entire sections of California Adventure were just generic off the shelf, rides. So it was really lacking with that. I do miss the movie that they took out, the one that I think was Whoopi Goldberg narrated, and where the mermaid ride is now. I thought that was a nice show with some good Disney touches.
Yeah, it just never really caught on. When we saw it, I think there were like 5 people in the theater.
Yeah.
So
Well, same thing with I think it was Bodine bread, the making of the bread. It was like,
Yeah.
you watched it, it's like, okay, I don't need to see that again. How many times do I need to see how they make bread with
Well, we went every
Kind of.
single time just because the thought of getting something to eat for free from Disney was spectacular.
well,
good.
That was
Yeah.
the only good part of it. You got something to eat, but the rest of the show was just not to our caliber at all.
No, and also it got really stale after a while. You had, whatever his name is, Ryan Stiles and Rosie O'Donnell. Well, 10 years later, everybody's going, who's she?
Yeah.
The show goes off the air, and modern kid comes along. They have no idea who these people are. I think they're still giving out free, I don't remember if they were doing it or not. Don't they still give out free samples of at the Mexican place across the street?
Tortillas?
Yeah, free
I don't know.
tortillas. I think they do. I'm not sure.
They still give out the free bread, but the Mission Tortilla factory is gone. It's the Ghirardelli soda fountain.
Oh, okay.
Now. Yeah,
But you get free chocolate, so that's good, right?
you do. You do get a piece of free chocolate on some days.
What confused me was they had that one section where you had said farm equipment sitting out.
Yeah, Bountiful Valley Farms, but that's all gone now. It's all
Yeah.
tomorrow.
I just had to wonder what they were thinking. I figured it wouldn't last too long. I'm not surprised it's gone. It's like, why is there a tractor here?
The whole edutainment thing that they were doing for a while.
Well, when we go back in a couple weeks, I'm really looking forward to riding Luigi's tires. Oh, wait. Didn't work the
Second
first
attempt at
time.
the flying
Didn't work.
saucers, it didn't work.
Yeah, didn't work. And, sooner or later, they're going to try it a third time. There's the House of Tomorrow. Nice
Oh,
to
cool.
that.
Just read that book a few weeks ago on that. That's an outstanding book if you folks haven't read it. The new
Yeah,
one.
I just got a copy and I drooled over the pictures and now I have to go back and actually read it.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, Bill, but Jeremy Marks was gonna come on one of these Saturdays and do his virtual tour of the House of Monsanto.
You have to track him down. He does very, very good recreations of stuff.
Yep.
I remember when he first did the Tower of the Four Winds, and people standing there all bumping into each other, with the 3D goggles, trying to look up and down and back and forth. Fun stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, for those of you that probably none of you have seen it besides Bill and I, but when you're in the House of Monsanto, you look out the windows and you see what you would have seen out the window, right? So Space Mountain or whatever was in the in the view of the window. So he really went to great detail.
The sadly lamented lost Skyway.
Yeah. I've heard different stories. The one I believe most is that people were throwing things down out of the Skyway cars, but that's a lot.
No, it actually had to do with the fact that they reclassified it as a form of transportation, not an amusement park ride, and the regulations and how they would have to retrofit it in order to meet the standards would have cost so much money. They decided, okay, we're just forget it.
What about the story of the janitorial guy that jumped out?
No.
That didn't happen.
No, there was a guy that did jump out of it. He tried to claim he fell out, but they were able to figure out or prove that he jumped out. But that had nothing to do with him closing it down. That happened actually several years before it was finally closed down. But it was all about the fact that just the retrofit cost that they wanted, with all the safety and things that, this had run for how many years without a single physical accident to the machinery itself or the buckets. And, but it was just ridiculous. So they just said, no, forget it. We'll just move on to something else.
Yeah. Here's the Autopia without middle rails.
Whoa.
So they have that Skyway in Florida. Did they
It's
have to do that same classification scheme for that?
Well, they took
So-
out the original Skyway. Same reason they took it out. And the one that's in there now is a totally different system.
Yeah, and it's all enclosed.
Yeah, and it's probably built to that standard now, but to retrofit them was going to be they'd have to rebuild the whole thing, and they just decided for what it costs to run it, and do that retrofit, and what they got show value out of it. It just wasn't worth it. And so
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, I understand the big thing for it was they'd have to take half the Matterhorn apart to retrofit what was inside of it.
yes.
Oh, wow.
So this is fun. We're at Disneyland, 1972, Christmas time. This is a Super 8 movie. There's GAF. Everybody can do our Henry Fonda imitation in the background. They replaced Kodak for a while. But we're enjoying the Christmas parade.
Just learned
Oh.
recently, going back just a second, that the load and unload mechanics from the Skyway in Disneyland are now being used by the San Diego Zoo for their Skyway ride.
Yep.
I'll have to check that out. We're going to be there in March.
Yeah, well, I guess some of the rides are still going. Again, if you have to fix it and you don't have to redo the Matterhorn, that's a real plus. Lots of chairs out on Main Street because they would have reserved seating for VIPs for the Christmas parade.
How pink was this film?
This one wasn't so pink. This one was on the darker side. A matter of fact, when I get to Disney World, which we're going to hop to next, I'm going to give an example of what some of these things look like. So I have a before and after comparison. This is back when it was a real live Christmas tree, and it smelled just wonderfully.
Bill,
Yeah.
did Disney have a stables for all the horses they used?
Yes, back behind Fantasyland, basically where Mickey's Toontown was a giant set of stables. It was something like the Circle D Ranch. I think the guy's name was Owen that operated it. So they kept the horses out there. They also have canines that they use for the Disneyland security sweeps. That sort of thing was all out there. Now it's off site, and they have to bring the horses in from off site.
Wow.
How did they screen the horses for the parts they had to do?
Well, they train them like they train, police horses, getting them used to noise and crowds and all the rest of that. And that works well most of the time. And then sometimes some idiot will do the thing like throw a firecracker under a horse. They had a thing happen back when I was there where some of the horses got loose and it ran down Main Street, and one of the cast members thought he could stop it. And the horse took him out and almost ran into the Emporium. So, it's important when people do stupid things and cause stupid problems. And then unfortunately, they usually get away with it. The treehouse is just reopened. It had been done as the Tarzan treehouse for quite a few years. And just, I think this past week reopened as the Adventureland treehouse inspired by Swiss Family Robinson, as opposed to just the pure Swiss Family Robinson treehouse. Look how empty it is. Pretty neat, huh? Now think about Christmas time at Disneyland today. Do you think you'll ever see it this empty?
I think you'd see it that empty any day of the year now.
Maybe it's because everybody is lining up for the parade. Want to get good seating for the parade.
Yeah.
We went in about 86 or 7 for the holidays, and there was just nobody there. On Thanksgiving, it was kind of busy in the morning, and then everybody was gone. We had the place to ourselves.
Yeah, now everybody says, oh, nobody goes, so let's go and everybody goes.
Yeah. Yep, it's the opposite now. So I have a friend named Larry Pettit. He lives in Park City, Utah, and he used to be one of the wranglers on the original mule chain ride.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
We got some footage. I don't remember if it's on this one. I think it might be on this one of the mule train. We'll have to see if it's on. After a while, you don't remember them all. Nature's Wonderland, back where Big Thunder is now.
He still works for the Disney family as a wrangler. Yeah.
I love Nature's Wonderland. I had seen it, as a kid growing up, and the tumbling rocks and all the rest of it. And when I got out there, took the ride through it. But then oh, here we go. I thought this was on here. So when the park was closed, walking through that area was really just a tremendous treat. I took some pictures. I just wish I had more, but film was expensive back then, right? And besides, it's always going to be here. I'll get it next week. Oh, wait, it's gone.
So true.
Yeah, we were having that conversation on the Route 66 group. Always photograph it because next week it might be gone.
Yeah.
Well, when you're driving around the country, always go see that attraction or go off road, because who knows if you'll ever be back there again. You always, like Bill just said, you think you're gonna be back there again, and but yeah, I used to travel all over the West, and I would always, stay off the freeways and drive the back roads, and because I learned that lesson early on that
I've had that same feeling. I drive down the road, said I'd never been on this road before in my life. I'll probably never see it again.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One-time trip, one way,
Yep.
one-time trip.
Now, in this
Exactly.
movie, if you notice
Oh,
up in
wow.
the sky, there's a lot of grain. It's because I had I amplify the light. Since I did this movie, there's another tool that I'll be giving a little demonstration of later called Neat Video that does an amazing job of taking out grain and some of the dirt and stuff. So I'm going to redo this film and put it through Neat Video. But when we get to Disney World, I do have an example of that. So you keep doing this, and then you get a movie done, and you put 6 hours into it, and then you go eat dinner, and you sit down at your computer, and there's an ad for something. You go, oh crap! I wish I had 6 hours ago. But
So in these movies, you start with a piece of film and end up with a digital copy.
yeah, I have a scanner sitting right here that's basically will do almost any format of film, and it turns it into a video file. And then you have to, what you have then is a raw, well, first thing I do is I clean them all physically with a chemical cleaner to try to get as much dirt and grime and embedded smoke particles and that sort of crap off. Then you put it through the scanner. Well, then here's the Christmas star, which I never saw. It was gone by the time I got there, but it was a massive star and it actually rotated, which was kind of neat. So then you have to take the raw movie, which jumps and bounces all over the place, and then matter of fact, we're done with Disneyland, so let me go to Disney World here.
And then they're stored on DVDs or on a hard drive.
I haven't stored on my hard drive, and let's see, Walt Disney World. So okay, I'm just trying to find what I wanted here. Okay, here's an example. The film on the left and the film on the right. So when the one on the left is the raw scan, you can see the colors are off, it's darker. When you can see the noise like in the ground or up in the sky, you can do an awful lot to try to bring them back. Now there's some very, very expensive, like $10,000 software that could get these vertical scratches out. I'm never going to be investing in that. But this is basically what the difference of what you see when you get the scan on the left, and then when you're done with what you get the scan on the right. The scan on the right also, I'll take out bad splices when I edit these things. Sometimes, the person, usually dad, doesn't realize the camera's going and getting pictures of his feet or something else. I take it, or the camera's just whipping from left to right at 80 miles an hour. I take those things out as well. Well, let's go and visit in this particular reel here. It's let's see, reel 15. Where did I put that? It was that was a visit to American Parade. It's not the best American Parade footage, but this particular one, I think they did a pretty nice job. So let me pull this one up here. Whoops, let me bring it back to the beginning. I was actually able to get the exact date on this one because there's a school band marching in it. And I was able to find on newspapers.com the story of them taking their trip to go appear at Disney World. So this was Super 8. The photographer on this, I thought, did a nice job of nice long shots and not whipping all over the place. This was not as badly discolored as the one I just showed the example of, but it still needed some punch up, but it did a nice job. If anybody was anybody here ever a character at the parks? These American parade costumes were incredibly heavy to wear. I started at the Disney in 1976, and I had made a friend in the wardrobe department, and they let me wear one of these costumes or one of the pilgrims just to try it on. They are so top heavy that every time I watch this thing, I am just absolutely in awe of the men and women that did these things, that they could walk with them and do what they did as well as they did. They were very, very interesting costumes. They freaked out a lot of kids with the giant heads, but boy, they were heavy. You can see they're looking through the neck area, so everything that's above them with those heads is sitting above the top of their head. So your center of gravity is just really incredibly thrown off.
What are those heads made of?
Fiberglass.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And they're hot in the summer too.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Very hot. Very, very hot. They went through, when I was there, they were doing a program to try to figure out how to make the costumes less terrible. So they tried a water-cooled suit where you would wear underneath your chipmunk suit, you would wear a vest with basically cooling tubes that came down. And it turned out that the battery pack that you needed to run it and the weight of the cooling was rather substantial. And the batteries did not last very long at all at that time. So they got rid of that. Then they tried for some of them, like in the Winnie the Pooh costume. At that point, he had a giant honey jar in his head. They tried putting a fan in there, and then the fan made noise, and people were looking at it and paying attention to it. And then people were also complaining they were worried if you were wearing it that your hair could get up in there. So basically, the rule was you went and you did about 15 minutes on stage and about 30 minutes off stage to try to recover. I was just
Bill?
Yeah.
Real quick, on that last example where you were showing side by side of unprocessed and processed, I noticed that the processed film was jittery. Was that is that how it turns out, or was that just part of the example that you were showing us, that it happened to be jittery compared to the unprocessed portion of it? Was there a reason for that being jittery like that?
The processed one, the cleaned up one, was jittery?
Yeah, I mean, it looked to me that when you were showing them side by side, that the unprocessed one, was showing, 24 frames, 16 frames a second, whatever it was. But the processed one looked like it was, showing it 10 frames a second.
No, they should be the same. I didn't see that on my end.
I didn't notice that either.
Yeah, I didn't notice it either.
I've never seen this parade before. It's really cool.
Bill, have you heard anything, whether they're thinking of planning to do anything like this for the 250th coming up in 2 years?
No, I haven't heard any plans whatsoever. You would think it'd be a great thing for them to do something, but I haven't heard anything coming up.
Yeah.
Knowing Disney these days, they're probably just worried about the stock price tomorrow. So.
I'm not hearing much about the 250th anywhere. I mean, before the bicentennial, for several years before, you could hear about it just everywhere you went. But I ain't hearing anything for the 250.
Yeah, the post office is doing some stamps. They're just starting with them. I don't know how much they're going to do, but it's. I don't think it's on the same level as the 200th was.
Well, it's interesting. I've been trying with the Queens Museum in New York to ask them, what are you going to do for the 60th anniversary of the World's Fair? And they keep saying, we're working on it. We'll kind of come up with something. Well, that's 6 months from now. I mean, it's not, to me, I would have had something planned well in advance of something, than 6 months from now. But when I think back to the 50th anniversary, it was the same thing. Like 3 weeks before. Oh, we didn't realize it was a World's Fair anniversary. Could you come to New York for us? So I'm hoping that they get something together, because the 60th is a big milestone, and a lot of us won't be here for the 70th.
Bill, it would be great if a lot of the members of this group could travel up to New York and be at that 60th. We can all go have something to eat at the airline diner.
Yeah, I figured, Joey, that even if the the Queens Museum doesn't do something, we'll have to put together something unofficial and just meet in the park, wander around, ooh and ah about what used to be where, and then go and get a burger.
Yeah.
What would the date of that be? You have the date?
Around, I try to do it as close to the actual date as possible. So let's I got another one here. Let's see, where did it go? Real not.
You live in Vermont around that time, you catch the train down.
So what month and year would that be?
April.
Of what
Oh,
year?
may not be there yet.
April 2024.
Okay.
I think it's the 21st and 22nd. Were those the dates that open? Something like that.
Come on up, Irv.
I might, because I'm up in New Jersey pretty often to see the family, so it would be tempting to go up there.
Joey, would you take us on a scavenger hunt?
Yeah, I'll show you how I hopped a lot of the fences too.
All right.
I'll bring bail money.
We can break into the New York State Pavilion too.
Yeah.
A get out of jail free card.
And I think what we need to do is all show up there with clipboards, hard hats, and a big sign about Bravo TV film documentary crew, and start digging up the underground world home, and just have everybody, yeah, we're it's official, it's all approved.
Picks and shovels.
Yeah. Always carrying a clipboard makes this official.
Yeah, you get that clipboard, you can go anywhere.
Love it. Hi, cutie.
That little sweetie is a senior citizen today.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true, huh?
Thinking about that. It's a grandmother.
Yeah.
You look at some of these things and you have exactly that thought. To me, I'm still locked back in the time that I'm not an old fart, and then I realize, oh my God, I'm going to be a grandfather soon. All these people, you look at them, and yeah, she's I think 5 years old or whatever she's saying there, and wow, oh, smack her in the head, Dad.
Yeah, she's almost 55, she's in her mid-50s now.
Yeah.
Funny.
Whoops, going real fast there, Dad.
Yeah. Oh, they're just
Because his wife
flowers.
told him to take a picture of the flowers.
Oh, you can meet Mickey in the street. That never happens now.
Right.
Ticketed attraction.
We had just some other odds and ends here. Let's see if I can figure out where the hell I put some of them.
You never seem to run out of movies.
Yeah, so here is the other one other. This was the whole reel of oh, actually, hang on one second. This was when I was putting it into the neat video. Hang on. Stop. Okay. So this is the American Parade that's been cleaned up. Like I said, taken out a lot of the noise and stuff on it. Sometimes you get to the point where you can only do so much, and then you just have to move on to the next one. I mean, I have literally hundreds of reels of film sitting here waiting to be done, but it does a pretty good job of knocking down the worst of it. So this is 1975. Again, we're going to see more of American Parade. If I win the lottery, I will do two things. I will buy the $10,000 software to take out the scratches, and I will hire somebody to do it for me.
What causes the scratches to continue throughout all the frames?
Yeah, it's a vertical scratch is really tough to work on, because dirt, it can do a comparison of the frame before and the frame after, and the software can interpolate and take out a lot of the dirt. but the scratch is there in the frame before and then there in the frame after. So like I said, the expensive software takes advantage of the fact that the cameras move from side to side and do some other things. It does an amazingly good job, but it's just as I said, very expensive.
They don't use a technique like they use in sound software where you take a sampling of what
There's a
you
happy
want
float.
and then go through and find everything that matches that sample and remove it.
It's basically what they do. They have you paint it out so it tells you what area you want to work on, and then it goes off and does it. The trouble with this one, if you look, the green scratch is really very big. It's right into the emulsion, and there's several smaller scratches off to the side of it. So it would be a tremendous amount of work for it to do. The bigger the scratch, obviously, the more guess of it has to do as far as what it's replacing.
I wouldn't be surprised, Bill, if like in 5 years there'll be new software that comes out that uses artificial intelligence technology. Like it's out now for like Photoshop, and you can just, it's amazing how quickly remove things, but moving video is a separate thing.
There's object eraser.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's what you keep hoping. What's interesting is some of these things are priced so high. Like a guy that I know is just evaluating one of them, which goes for $200 a month, and they use it as you don't have to buy an annual license, but $200 a month, he starts paying that's $2,400 a year. Just to take dirt off of pictures. If you got a business doing it, that's one thing. So people keep contacting the companies saying, if you could come up with a lighter version that only does this or that. They don't even bother to answer your emails. They're making the money off the studios, the production companies, the guys that put out DVDs, that sort of thing. And I guess they don't want to loosen the market to, for the little mom and pop shops.
Plus, you'd ask questions.
What's that?
Plus, you would want, technical support. You'd ask questions.
Yeah, right. That would be it. I'd be a pain for that. Hang on, I'll see if I can find where I had some.
Like all technology, the price will probably drop radically in the near future.
Yeah, it'll be free. It'll be free in 5 years.
Yeah, that's right. It will drop way down.
Yeah. So we're gonna go visit Universal Studios now, out here in beautiful California.
I did buy America on Parade book. I haven't really delved too much into it. It was on eBay.
Okay.
Program for when I saw it.
I grabbed the wrong image here. 1 second.
Thing that annoys me is some YouTubers that add scratches and ducks.
Yeah, isn't that amazing how they do that? They
yeah.
Okay.
Trying to make it look aged.
That's bizarre. Never mind. Sorry.
Okay, this one is kind of interesting. It's LA, and I don't have an exact date on it. It's basically we're going to take a look at LAX Airport. And if you've been there in recent years, you're going to see it looks way, way different than this particular one.
Looks like it's around the 70s based on the cars.
Yeah.
Back when you could still see the theme building.
And we know it's from at least 1968 because we're going to see the Hughes Air West Terminal, and that airline was formed in 68, 69. And then we're going to show up downtown, and there's a temple that they tore down, I think, in 85. So it's somewhere in that range. What I never knew, or if I didn't remember it, that there was actually a gas station, a Chevron gas station at the entrance to LAX. This is all covered in, for people that don't know, what a double-decker arrangement now. So this road here has another road up on top of it. We're going to see the theme restaurant.
I always loved that building. You can't get in there anymore, but I loved
Are
it.
they going to do anything with that?
Well, it was
Nobody
in Gilbert's for a while.
has any plans. I mean, Disney had done a redesign of it for the restaurant, but it's impossible. I mean, if you put that restaurant and you gave away food for free, people probably wouldn't go, because the drive to get to it, like on a Friday night, It's insane just to go through the loop of that airport. There's Hughes Air West.
And you have to leave the security zone if you want to leave it if you're flying in or out. So
Yeah, I was just thinking
doesn't
that
work.
it's so far to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's such a waste of a building. It's a pretty cool building.
It is a neat building. Every time I see these things, I think of the scene in The Graduate where he's coming home. So we're in downtown LA. This is Pershing Square. That temple was torn down about 85, Temple Baptist Church. Sat as an empty parking lot for 30 years, and then they finally built something on it. There is the Bell System Pavilion, pavilions, right? Bell System building. And we're going to look up at the microwave towers up in the top. That was part of the division of AT&T. I worked for AT&T Long Lines. And, what's the name of this hotel? Famous hotel.
Biltmore, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. If you go inside, it's beautiful inside. Ballrooms and the restaurant is really great. This is kind of neat.
Actually, I had my 20th anniversary dinner with Disney there.
Oh, did you? Wow.
Yeah.
This is kind of neat. The Pacific Mutual building, time to insure. The clock makes me think of the Hudsucker Proxy. If anybody remembers that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go just looking around the rest of Pershing Square, which is a total armpit these days. And, they periodically come and clean out the homeless. Then we get a view of the bank here, City National Bank. And again, looks like a brand new building. I think it was built in 1967. It's still there, but it's got the name taken off, and it's for rent almost the entire building if anybody wants it. But back when it was nice, I mean, like right now, this is just so many homeless people and street vendors and everything else. It's just a god awful mess. That
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Bill, I was going through a bunch of videos online the other night, and I came across this conspiracy theory video about the most frightening building in New York, and the picture was of the Long Lines building you worked in.
No kidding.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can dig it up and try to find it, send it to you again, because it's like one of these total nut job videos. I didn't watch the whole thing, but it's really, mysterious things happened in there. And
oh no, I mean, if they found out what we were doing, now I'm gonna have to kill them. Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll send you their address.
Yeah. So now we're going to take a look. You end up with different films that different things are spliced onto. So this was from a visit somebody took to Disneyland in '72, and they also stopped at Hoover Dam. So I figure if anybody has a love of giant things made out of incredibly large amounts of concrete, if you've never been to Hoover Dam, it's really great. You can go inside, get tours of the dynamo rooms, that sort of thing. Right now, they've been having the problem with the drought that we've been having for years, that the water level has gone way down to the point where they start thinking, what are they going to do for the Western power grid if Hoover Dam runs dry in the lake behind it? So that's why when they're talking about things like El Nino coming and lots of rain, I'm all for it, because I'm a big proponent of keeping the lights on.
My grandfather was for a number of years the chief load dispatcher for LA Water Power. As far as he kept the lights on in the city of LA, he was responsible for that. So he got us a very special tour of this whole facility when we were in Vegas one time for something, part of a vacation, and so we got this behind the scenes tour that went way behind the scenes. I can't remember a lot of it because I was a kid at the time, but it was pretty neat.
That's pretty.
Did you get to see Megatron too?
Megatron. I think he was in stasis at that point. I mean, he wasn't. Nobody knew he was there.
By the way, this white line around the edge here, they call it the bathtub ring. That shows you how the water level goes up and goes down in the lake. That the white area at some points was covered by water, and it goes down. That bathtub ring is now just astonishingly large. One more.
What do you think that was, just sort of bathtub ring? It was down even then. What year was that?
That was 1972.
It's way down now.
Oh, it's way down.
Oh, yeah.
The first time I visited way back when, they had self-guided tours. If you can imagine, you'd go down in the elevator and follow the dark line down the center of the corridor. And later, when I went, of course, the tours all had to have a guide. But I did take the hard hat tour, which went out into some of the tunnels and so forth. And I still have the hard hat.
That's neat.
You're supposed to give the hat back at the end of the tour.
Well,
No, they actually made you buy the hard hat for that.
Oh, you had to buy it.
This must have been pretty red, huh, Bill?
yeah, this
looking
is
at the-
super red, and this is the best I could do on this particular one. I actually tried running it through the color correction software more than once, and it didn't do it. And then, like I said, just after I finished it, somebody said, well, and I showed a bit of it to somebody, and I said, oh, you can fix all this and such. So I've got the raw data file. I'll play with it. You know, it's one of those things where if it was a unique movie, a one-off thing, then I'd put more time and effort into it. Oh, I get a kick out of this. This runner is just beating the shit out of this bug. What I mean, you know,
the lizard, yeah.
yeah. I'm not done hitting it yet. Let me give it some more wax. I want to make sure it's dead.
He wants to make sure it's dead so it doesn't get away from. He must have had meals get away.
And this is amazing. The
Ooh,
sidewinder.
wow.
Yeah, I mean, look at it going, and it barely leaves much of a mark in the sand at all. But can you imagine being out there and seeing this thing coming in your direction?
They're nasty snakes too. You don't want to mess with them.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Living Desert. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what a lot of this stuff was used from. They would take excerpts of stuff like a Gila monster here. I would not want to have that thing coming at me either.
There's sidewinders move like that to minimize their contact with the hot sand.
Yeah. Well, they again, this was Disney put this stuff out. What's interesting? I think this is a badger. They put out. Disney really knew how to maximize stuff. They put these movies out. First they released it theatrically on television, or theatrically. Then they put it on television. Then they put out a 16mm version for the educational market. Then they put out this home video version, and they also sold still images from it as part of the Panaview slide series that they put out. So they really, made multiple ways to combat, to profit on, something that today audiences wouldn't even give them a nickel for.
I think that might be a civet cat.
That could well be. Thank you. I would not pretend I know what all these things are. I just know what to stay away from. Don't jump.
Every time I visit the Grand Canyon, I'm amazed by the number of people who sit on the edge and try to take a selfie.
I was thinking just that. Don. We were out there a couple of years ago, and there's a big sign about, do not go over the edge. And there's people leaning on the sign to use it to climb over the fence right there. And you figure, my God, we read it on the paper all the time. I guess he did decide to jump. You read it on the paper all the time about people, going over the edge, and you just like the waterfall at Yosemite National Park. There's a big sign about don't go past this point, and people go out and wandering in the water because they want to get the picture taken, stand at the edge of the waterfall, and then they find out, oh, the rocks are all covered in moss.
Oops.
Yeah. Or they do it in the early spring when it's a huge runoff and they have no sense of what the power of water is.
Mhm.
And there was I think I've told this story before, a girl and two teenage guys, and she wanted her picture out there and everybody's telling her, no, don't do it. The instant she put her foot in, it swept her away and the two boys jumped in to go save her and they all went over the falls. That was at Vernal.
Well,
it's called Fool Around and Find Out.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
it's Darwinism working.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, I was taking my son and some other Cub Scouts on a rafting ride on the Kern River. And as you drive from here up to where the rafting is done, you go into a mountain pass through the Kern River, and there's a giant ass sign. The Kern is a deadly river. And so far this year, so many people have died. And in the last 10 years, I mean, it's some huge number of people too. And all I can think of, taking the Cub Scouts into this thing. Well, luckily we were up in a more placid part. Placid being a relative term, the rapids were really interesting. But every year, same sort of thing. People go up there. It's a hot day in the city. They drive up to the Kern River and they go, "Oh, I'm just going to go into the water to cool off." And 3 months later, they're finding their body trapped in the bottom of a waterfall with this hydraulic effect that keeps the body trapped down there for a long period of time. But it's
The same thing happens with the blowholes in Hawaii.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was a guy, we were up in Yellowstone a number of years ago, and they were talking about some guy that walked off, to go, again, get a picture next to one of the blowholes. Oh, not blowholes, there's the geysers in Yellowstone. And the crust broke through, and they said basically it was dissolved on impact.
Wow.
Whatever bones were at the bottom, nobody was going to go down and get them.
We say be clean.
Yeah.
Well, we get similar things here during fall color, and all the aspens are turning, and people just park along the side of the road and go running across in front of the traffic without even looking to see if anybody's coming on a major highway. And every year there's somebody that gets hurt or killed because they didn't look.
Mhm.
That's why the locals don't go out during fall color season.
They need Jiminy
because
Cricket.
they go ahead.
You may get
Oh,
a
I said
picture.
Jiminy Cricket had that song.
Oh, yeah.
What is it?
No fool,
Look and
no
listen.
siree. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
was
you
gonna
might
say
get a
that
picture of
they
this.
come from an area where they believe, well, the pedestrians have the right of way, so I can just walk out. I see people coming out of stores. You're in the parking lot, driving in front of the store. And they never even look. They're looking at their phone, just
Oh,
walking
yeah.
along. It's assuming everybody's going to stop for them because that's what the rule says. It's like, not everybody will.
Well, Don may get a kick out of this one. We were talking about Amboy before we got started, Ghost Town out in California. They have painted on the middle of the road periodically every couple miles the Route 66 symbol.
Mhm.
And in Amboy, there's two of them, one facing in each direction. So I thought it'd be a really neat shot to get my friend Mike, who was out there with, walking across the highway at the Route 66 emblem. So I go, and there's nobody in this road because it's dead ends. It goes nowhere. So I go out and I put the drone down, and you have to, once you hit the start button, it takes a few seconds to lock in. Of course, what do I hear coming up behind me but a car? So now it's like, do I grab the drone with its propellers going at 8,000 RPM and have it cut my hand off, or do I jump off to the side of the road and just hit the up button as fast as I can? So the footage shows a car going about 8 feet underneath the drone as it finally got out of the way. But what were the odds that somebody drove down the road just then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've stood in the middle of a lot of Route 66. It's pretty safe most of the time, but
And the odds
Bill,
are
the odds are
100%
100%.
Yeah.
100%
At
It's
one
part of
point,
Murphy's Law.
yeah, at one point I wanted to again film the shot, and my friend Mike said something like, "My God, this has turned into the Indy 500." Because we look down the road, and here come 8 cars. Well, we found out later what was causing it was that the road goes across the railroad tracks, and there's a lot of trains, a tremendous amount of trains that go through. But and sometimes it can take 30 minutes or so for the train to go. Well, everybody's stacked up. And when the train finally goes and everybody comes down that way, you're getting 8 cars coming at once because they've all been stacked up by the railroad. But it was like you're out trying to take a picture of an empty road and cars. So anyway, we saw a whole bunch of various odds and ends, and like I said, it's kind of interesting. You go back to things like the Day at Disneyland film. So much of Disneyland has changed. There's just so many things. The Indian dance ring and the country bears and the mule train and all that. But there's still so much that's there that is still real popular now.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
You wouldn't mind rerunning that side-by-side film again for a moment, would you?
Yeah, I can do that. Hang on a second. Normally I would charge extra, but I'm in a good mood today, so hang on.
Yeah, it broke up. It broke up here too,
Yeah.
And your voice broke up at the same time, so I assumed it was an internet problem.
I'm just getting it here. Hang on. Okay. I just have to go back and share the screen again. 1 second. Okay, share screen. There we are, share screen. Got it, and go. So at least I'm not seeing any jitter or jumping or anything on the right-hand side.
I've got both sides halting and then starting again.
The left side's more jittery.
Yeah, the left side, you're getting camera jitters moving up and down. So the right side it does, optical stabilization. And
No, I think I know what I'm seeing is that I'm seeing the film grain on the left side
okay.
as compared to the lack of film grain on the right side, and because I see movement in the film grain, I see the frame movement as compared to the lack of film grain on the right side, which, yeah, well, it's still a little jury, but I think maybe that's what it is. It's the optical illusion of I see film, the removal of the film grain on the right side, as compared to seeing it on the left side. That makes it look like it's going.
Did you take your medication this morning?
I over meditated this morning. Maybe that's the problem.
Looking back at the bear film, you might find this interesting. I don't know. There's an author I read, C.J. Box, and he has a character called Joe Pickett. And in the last book I read, I'm catching up from, I started reading him back in the mid 70s, and now I'm going back and picking up other ones. He spends this whole book in Yellowstone Park. He's doing an investigation, and it's very interesting because the author really knows the park very well and everything. And he talks about, you were saying how in the film, the bears got to all these places so quickly, and even the family did. But the reality is, in some cases, you have to go out of the park and into another state and back into the park for some of these places because there are no roads that connect to them inside. And he goes through all that because he talks about how the time he has to spend going from one spot to another and things like that. So if you're familiar with the park, you might find the book interesting because it goes into a lot of detail describing some of the buildings there and other stuff through the story. So, and it's called Free Fire is the name of the particular book. It was published in 2007, but it's C.J. Box is the author.
Great, thank you. Yeah, when Carol and I were up there a number of years ago, we drove up from Salt Lake City, and we had the kids there, and they were horrified to find out, no Wi-Fi in the park. But we went out to Yellowstone, the lake, and they had a massive fire there. It had probably been a good 10, 15 years before, and there were still just, down trees all over the place. But now we've got to drive up to the next part of the park, and we got behind somebody that was determined to go a good 15 miles an hour under the speed limit, and it's no passing the entire way. I mean, Carol could tell you, Carol's very patient, but by the time we got there, she was getting upset with him. It was like, I said, damn, that bear could get there faster than we could. Carolyn asked a question about why did some of the panel view slides turn red and some did not? Most of them have turned color over time because they used, as far as I can tell, 3 different film stocks. You had Kodachrome, Kodacolor, and then you also had GAF. And GAF at one point bought the PanaView, product line. And of course, they weren't going to use any of the Kodak products. So they started using GAF film, and it did not last at all. It was basically the cheapest stuff that they could get for any of these souvenir slides. You think about it, if you're taking a picture, you want it to last forever. All these people cared about was selling it, and anything for 10 years and now down the road didn't matter. So when I started working for Disney, I bought every GAF slide that I could, well, not GAF, PanaView slide that I could. I could get them cheap, but also it was great views. And that's really how I got into the photo restoration. I had taken the pictures out. They were sitting here right behind me in carousel slides, well preserved in an air conditioned, not humid environment and everything. I took it out and the damn thing was bright red. And it was like, oh, this is, I had spent a fair amount of money collecting several hundred of these things. And I was looking for something online. I had at that point, a HP S20 photo scanner, which I think right now it was something like 8 pixels. It wasn't very, it was okay for the time, but I was trying to figure out what to replace it with. And I saw something online about the Nikon CoolScan 4, and it will take out the red and put back the color and take out the dust. And I said, it can't possibly do it. And I looked at videos of it and everything, and I said, it can't possibly do it. And I went online and bought one, and they were running, I think, about $800 or so at the time. Got it, put it in, and if you've ever heard one of these things going, it sounds like a truck. They are very, very noisy because it's got a very precise stepper motor that moves in very small increments to do it. And when the first picture came out, and all of a sudden all the red was gone, I said, that is the slickest thing I've ever seen in my life. It does amazing stuff. The only trouble is on the Panaviews, it doesn't fit the entire format of the Panaview. It's too big for the sensor area in a Nikon. So I've got to do all the Panaviews, it turns out, on a Epson flatbed scanner. But the long answer, they just used the cheapest film stock they possibly could. And that's, again, like all these the home movies back then, nobody was planning on selling this and worried about somebody coming back and asking for a refund 30 years later. Sell it, get it out the door. So that almost every home movie, commercial home movie that you buy, whether it's Disneyland or a Woody Woodpecker cartoon or almost anything, they finally in the late 70s, early 80s started realizing that people would spend big bucks for things like a copy of Star Wars. And there's a company in England called Duran, Derann, and they started putting out all their movies on low fade stock. And you can get one of their Super 8 movies today. It looks basically as good as it did when Star Wars first came out. But here in the States, make it cheap, make it bad. But it gives me something to do.
When are you going to run out of movies, Rory?
What's that?
When are you ever going to run out of movies? You seem to have an end of the supply.
I have an endless supply. The problem is I don't have an endless amount of time. There's so many other things that come along. And I realized some of these ones today I had scanned 6 months ago, and they were just sitting on the hard drive waiting to be done. So I put a bunch of time this week into cleaning them up and everything, and I realized how many more I have to do. But I enjoy it. It takes my mind off the day-to-day stuff. So
I'm sure we all appreciate the time you put into this.
Well, thanks, Irv. I appreciate that.
Hey, Max.
So again, I appreciate you folks joining. I mean, I've said all along, there are people that collect things that just hoard them. Mine. They don't want to share it. To me, if I show this and somebody looks at it and goes, "Oh my goodness, I had forgotten," the amusement park ride, Westview Park, and all of a sudden people mention, "Oh, we had that same ride, the Scrambler at my park." If it brings back a happy memory or something along the way, so much the better. So, and Beth, you mentioned your kids collect postcards. You think you have vintage ones of LA?
Yeah, I think he has some. I'll have to see what he has. He has a collection of glass slides too. So, and they're mostly architectural slides. I don't remember what he has in that set from LA, but we'll have to look and see.
It's interesting. Carol and I live in what's called the San Fernando Valley, and if people know the area, you've got basically LA. It's a big blob and goes down to the water, and we're at the very far top north part of it. And every now and then you'd go into a store that would have postcards of the San Fernando Valley, and it would usually be like the NBC studios or the sometimes just, oh, here's a new shopping center. But right up at the very top of the road that we live on, near the main one, Balboa Boulevard, 2 miles up to the top of us is where the California aqueduct comes over the mountains and finally gets to LA. And there's all sorts of postcards and everything put out of when they opened the aqueduct, and Mulholland came out and made his speech, here it is, take it, and they cut the ribbon. But you see in the postcard people out there with hot dog stands, and I guess hot dogs are still, the big thing for people buying it at a thing in the 1908 or whenever they did it. And I keep thinking I got to take my drone up and fly along the right of the aqueduct and everything, because it's literally 2 miles. So you used to see postcards of the aqueduct. There's no postcards of anything anymore. But you just take it as granted that you see this aqueduct every day. Why would anybody buy a postcard of it? Well, 120 years ago, nobody lived here. It was a big thing to do. So,
well, yeah, it was the part, that section they call the Cascade.
Yeah,
where sometimes they run water down it to aerate it and everything. It was the whole idea. And I think they built a new one, because I think the original one, there was problems after the earthquake. But at any rate, that being lit, it was also had lighting, so it'd be lit up and you'd see the water cascading. So that was like an amusement. It's just like when I was a kid, we'd go down, we lived by LAX, and we would go, this is the old airport location, what is now considered the freight section out in to the east of the main airport. But you'd go down there to take all your friends from out of town to watch the planes land. They'd fly right over your head, and that was a big deal. And then the jets started, and we went out to see the first jets take off, and we're disappointed in the fact that we didn't have much of a view, because they had put up those deflector panels to deflect the blast from the engines. Yeah.
Oh, the
so, but it
exhaust,
was,
yeah.
But those are the things that people were entertained by, and that was a view. You couldn't see that anywhere else. And that was the water coming down from the Sierras and that sort of thing.
They had the lights in it for only about 2 years. I don't think it lasted much longer than that. And I don't know why, if it wore out, they took it out. There's three that you mentioned. There's the old Cascades, the new one, and sometimes they're using both. Most of the time, the water just comes down through the pipe. And for people that aren't familiar with it, It's a giant concrete trough, and then they've got all sorts of concrete pillars that stick up. And the idea is the water comes down, hits the pillars, splashes up, catches more air, and then when it goes into the reservoir, it's been aerated, and it keeps down the bacterial levels in that. And sometimes you look at it and it's just, the water's just going. And I'm always saying, oh man, it'd be a great raft ride. And the kids, really, Dad? No. But for about 2 years, they put colored lights in there. And it was really a neat effect, because, it started like, the rainbow effect, red up to one side, green at the other. And then the lights would change color, as the water was go down. And they did things back and forth. And I was thinking they'd miss a bet. There's a parking area right near there. If they set it to music, they probably could have, really entertained people. But that only lasted about 2 years, and that was, my God, that probably had to be.
How much water did they lose from splashing and evaporation?
Water. I'm sure they lose a lot. They also lose a lot the leaks in the system. Every now and then they'll shut it down for a while, and they'll fill up the reservoir as high as it can get. They'll turn it off, and then they'll go in and patch the leaks in the tunnels. And then the LA Times almost always does an article about the people and the tunnels are big. They're pretty good sized tunnels that come out.
Just for the heat and the low humidity alone, you got a tremendous amount of water loss.
Yeah. Yep, and they've talked about, like, matter of fact, when we drove out to the desert on Wednesday, my friend mentioned, oh my God, there's the aqueduct, and it looks like a big river with concrete, and it loses a fair amount. And they've talked about how much it would cost to cover the whole thing in, and they just made the cost calculation of $27 billion versus we lose 2% of the water or whatever, and they decided to go with it.
Yeah, well, the aeration part was a necessary thing, like you said, to keep down the bacteria levels and all that sort of stuff. So that, they knew they were going to lose some, but it wasn't a huge amount of loss, not really a whole lot more than what they get, because it was contained. I think if I remember when I was a kid, the old Cascade area had outside, the new one had lights in the water. These were just white lights that were up on short stanchions that lit the waterway. And you could see the water coming down. So because I remember seeing that a lot as a kid. I did see once the colored ones when they opened up the new section. I didn't realize it had lost the light, so they had failed on them.
Yeah, it's not there. What I get a kick out of is everybody doing all the water planning. They had decided a number of years ago that they needed to take another tunnel and put more to get water from point A to point B. So they were digging this tunnel, and it was going through an absolutely god-awful area to put a tunnel, which you would never ever do it because it had all sorts of gas problems and everything else, and it blew up. Did you remember when that happened, Wayne? Brock, in the early 70s, I guess it was, in San Fernando.
I recall a little something about it, but I don't remember a whole lot.
Yeah, basically they dug this big tunnel. It's big enough, had a small train that went through it to carry the people in and carry people out. And one guy said, "Hey, we're getting a lot of gas here," and the contractor didn't want to stop and said, "Just ignore it, and it blew up. And they finally decided that they can't ever. It was too dangerous to do it. So that the blast area was maybe about 4 miles from my house. And there's still, I'll get the pictures of it. You drive along the road and you see this really weird looking round building off to the side. That's where the shaft was that they were putting all the workers down midway in the thing to, and they were digging from basically one end, and then they had this other shaft and it blew up. But they just basically sealed it off, and it still just sits there, off. And it keeps saying, if you needed to get the water so bad, how come you never ever needed to do another tunnel? They spent millions and millions and millions of dollars through the tunnel that was never used. So
yeah,
but
here in Arizona, they're always talking about water loss on the aqueduct from the Colorado River. And
well, and how the
have
Arabians have bought all
different-
those farms. Yeah.
you have different blue sky proposals thrown out for not just covering it, but covering it in solar cells. So you get power, and the shade is just
And stop the evaporation. Yeah.
yeah.
well, here to our reservoir, they came up with a great idea of the federal government was basically saying there's too much bacteria, and you also have the problem is birds fly over reservoirs and they poop and stuff. So they started covering over a lot of the reservoirs with a roof. And the biggest reservoir for the city of LA is right near our house. I mean, we come out, it's right there. And they said it was going to be, $27 bajillion to cover this thing over. So they came up with the idea of floating plastic balls in it. So they went off and something like 23 billion plastic balls and poured them into the reservoir. So it would all, float on the top of the water, and then, keep out the sunlight from hitting it and causing algae and everything. And then, you think he didn't start thinking this thing through, the water's getting much hotter than it used to, because
White plastic balls.
I have a solar cover on the pool to heat it up so I can go swimming. So they put like literally 7 million balls or something out on this reservoir, and they're like, oh, what do we do with them now? I don't know. Some places probably a warehouse full of 7 million wet balls, but
So, Bill, another question. When I was driving around and I was there in January, I always notice when I'm driving along 5 that there's, I guess that's the LA River on one side. And someone I heard talking about how they periodically have to go and clean out homeless encampments because when it was raining, like when I was there, suddenly it was flooding.
It's a huge problem. It happens all the time. And when you know that there's an El Nino coming, like in this particular week, we'll take patrol cars out and go along the river with loudspeakers warning people. They'll actually take the LAPD helicopters and fly them along the river warning people. It's going to rain 2 days from now. It's going to rain 2 days from now. And people ignore it. And every single storm, there's a story about some homeless guy up on a tree or stuck to a bridge or something like that. And there's also a number of them just drowned. They refuse to come out of the rivers and that sort of thing. When they
don't know how much is there. And there's a bridge right by Disney where we worked, Bill, that I think it was on Victory, that goes right over that thing. And during the summertime, you got a little stream running through there, and it's a pretty wide, it's probably 100 feet across, maybe a little less than that, but it's a good 12, 15 feet down to the base. And I've gone through there on rainy, we've had big rainstorms, cross that bridge, and the water's just barely almost lapping at the bottom side of the bridge. So you're talking, it goes from nothing almost to 15 feet of water, the entire width of this huge causeway. And people don't understand that's what it'll do, because everything goes there. All the water from the streets go into that. All the water from all these drain systems that they produce feed into it directly. So you get a
That's what
huge,
flash flooding does. Yeah.
exactly. It's a flash flood.
Well, do you remember, Brock, it was back in probably around 1980, about 85 or so. We had the same river, went right by Warner Brothers, and it
Mhm.
was incredible. Well, some guy tried driving for whatever reason into the LA River in a Volkswagen. Do you remember this? It was incredible to watch.
see.
It washed away his Volkswagen, and it was going down the river, and he still had the wipers going on it, you know. So you'd see the thing go crashing down in the water, and then it come back up again, and it was going on and on.
Bobbing.
It was on the news. It was incredible. And
Yeah.
when National Lampoon, I think, did a thing where they took a picture of the Volkswagen and said, if Teddy Kennedy had driven one of these, he'd be president.
Where did he end up in the Pacific Ocean?
Ouch.
He ended up in the Pacific, didn't he?
Yeah, well, it was a great ad. I mean, it was on the news this thing's just crashing down. The LA River, by the way, used to be a wild river, and it's part of it. People have been able to canoe or kayak on it, and they get into a big debate about the Corps of Engineers, whether then they're going to return sections of it to a navigable state or not. But when they built it, a friend of mine, Tim Walker, actually has a really great Department of Defense map. They had also planned that they could use it as an emergency way to get military vehicles around the city in case of Russian invasion or earthquake, that sort of thing. So back at the time, the river used to have signs on it, and Tim has pictures of it and everything, where it would be like, this tunnel goes here, like Cahuenga Boulevard, this one goes Blankershim. And they had the whole map, and it would tell you how to get from Long Beach up to, downtown LA, and which set of the rivers go. And then, they had in some sections, Brock can tell you it's flat, but then they'll have a cutout in the center where most of the water goes down in the slow time. So the military had all sorts of things on how they would bridge those cutouts, and their the cutouts were also partly to keep the people from getting down into the rivers to flee if the Russians were coming, because they only wanted the military down there. So they really thought out the whole, channel system very, very well back in the 50s as a civil defense thing.
Yeah, well, when I was learning how to fly cast, because I'm a fisherman, I was taking lessons at the Pasadena Casting Club, and they have a pond where you can cast on it and get, learn how to do it. But at some point you need to transition that from still water to a moving stream or river. So I would take lunch hours at Disney, and I'd go over to that little Griffith Park that was right there, right by the river. And I'd go down just with a piece of yarn on the end of it to practice the fly fishing and what's called mending, which is how you move work with the current and everything, just because it was a natural little stream. And I got to really get the experience of working in a natural stream basin. Well, people would come walking by and see me fishing there, and they'd say, "Are they really fishing there?" I said, "Oh yeah, I catch them all the time." And I said, "Some of them are really neat. They have 4 and sometimes 5 eyes, because of all the pollutants in the water." And they go, "Really? Do you eat them?" I said, "Oh, sometimes."
As soon as you said you were out there casting the river, all I could think was, what would people think when they came by?
Yeah, that's what they would do. They would say, "Really, there's fish in there?" And I'd say, "Oh, sure." And then give them this whole story about the weird, I had one that had 3 tails once, and things like that.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
think
surprised people don't try to drive there, when there's a big traffic jam.
Well, they're all fenced off and they're all gated off. And like I said, they purposely put a channel down the middle of it that you can't easily get from point A to point B. Because the incoming feeders, channels and everything, all of a sudden you'll come to a spot and there's a 3-foot gap, that sort of stuff. Yeah. But there are sections, like go watch the movie Grease, right? They're down in the river, and there are sections where people do go down there, and the helicopters come and chase them and try to get them. But right here, not very far from us, about 4 miles away, was the bit where they did the Terminator, and they're down in the river. And I've been like a whole bunch of collisions right at that corner. and you're looking at it and you just expect to see the truck come back, back at you.
Yeah, I know they've filmed down there. I just thought surely somebody's tried it once, but if it's all fenced in, maybe not.
Well, it's fenced in. That doesn't stop the transients, and like anything else, we have a big problem with street takeovers. People doing donuts in the middle of the road. Nothing will stop these people from cutting a chain, a chain link, locking a chain link fence and driving down there. The major thing is that if they do that, it's very hard for them to get away because they can't. It's usually like a one-way route that they've got to come back out where they went, and it's very easy for the police to wait for them where they just went in. So they don't do it too much.
They're doing street takeovers in LA. They're having that in Charlotte here too. I thought that was unique to this area.
No,
They're doing donuts and wheelies. And
Carol and I were on the Interstate 5 about 4 years ago and was like, what has gotten so bad with the traffic? We slow down and realize the cars in front of us have all blocked the road on purpose. And all these guys are out in the middle of 5 doing donuts all over the place. And now they all take off. And, how's the CHP going to catch them? They also have the problem with the intersection where you get there and everybody's like, why don't you send the cops? You've got literally 500 people in the intersection, watching it, 30, 50 cars doing donuts. One patrol car pulls up with 2 officers. Would you guys mind going home? So it becomes a real problem to deal with it.
Yeah, we have that problem in Tucson, and now they've been consulting their lawyers because Tucson voted out red light cameras, but they're wondering if they can set up cameras to stop the intersection takeovers.
Yeah, what we are doing right now is it used to be that you could take one of these guys' cars, take it away and crush it, and then make a big point. Some guys restored his car, he's put all this money in it, and you went and crushed it. Well, the judges don't tend to let you do that anymore. But if we can get a good video showing the car, the plate, and the driver, we can go in and pound the car and take it for 30 days. And then basically you're now able to charge them almost $1,000 a day for fines and storage on it. So if a guy loses his car and doesn't get crushed, but it's going to cost him $30,000 to get it back, that tends to, the word gets around about that. So it used to be that we were trying, and you may notice, Brock, the number of takeovers has dropped a bit in LA lately. That's one of the mechanisms. We found that if you try to send out even 100 officers to get these guys, they were fleeing all over the place and unfortunately sometimes killing people as they were trying to leave. So now the camera has become a big thing to go out to their house or the tow truck and go, hope you had fun last night. So it has gotten a bit better, but it's summer. Every summer, people get bored, and
this is happening all over the place then.
Yeah,
It's not a new thing. They used to drag race in Brooklyn all the time when I was growing up. So it's certainly not it's not anything new. It's just they didn't do it. Usually didn't do it in broad daylight though. Usually it was at dusk.
Yeah, well, drag racing goes way back, but to do wheelies in intersections, this is something else.
Yeah, this is something completely. Yeah. Bill, do they do this in broad daylight?
Yeah. It's mostly at night. They're very organized. They put out messages on different channels. We're going to meet at so and such, and then they're sometimes at the very, very last minute they all say, "Oh, we're going someplace else because we know the cops are waiting for us over there." Because we do have people that try to infiltrate and figure out where they're going. But 2 miles down south of us, Balboa Boulevard and Rinaldi, right above the 118, they do it there a lot. My partner lives less than a half a mile from there, and they get woken up at night by screeching tires and the honking of the horns. And then these guys decide at times it's also fun. I'm going to set up a industrial type firework in the middle of this thing, and they're just morons.
Well, and then you've had a few that have lost control and taken out some of the bystanders watching it.
Yeah. Darren, you said you lost an officer here overnight. Where is overnight? Where is here, rather? I don't know if he's still there. Well, we lost an officer here earlier this week. He was out in his car, private car, driving 1:15 in the morning, and a guy came through this the red light at 100+ miles an hour, killed him, his passenger, and the hurt the sheriff's deputy that was in the back seat. So they arrested him for murder, multiple counts of murder, vehicle manslaughter, etc. But doesn't bring the guy back. So yeah, Tuesday 1:15. It was a sad week. Austin. Oh, okay. Sorry. He replied here in the chat. Well, next week I think we will have probably more movies. Have enough to keep going for a while, and then we'll. Coming up to Thanksgiving, is everybody gonna have a big Thanksgiving dinner?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to miss you a couple of weeks. I'll be up in Washington, D.C. next week and up in Philadelphia the week after.
Oh, well, you have to watch us on video.
For 3 weeks.
Great. Well, we will see you next week, and I hope all is doing well. And I hope that for those of us out here in California, if you don't mind, if you hear us yelling and shouting as we do our rain dance, we're looking forward to it.
How many of you are veterans? Anybody?
Not,
I'm the only one.
I have a lot of submarine time, but as a civilian.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're military police. You're the only one, I guess.
I guess I'll be.
I served in the Marine Corps.
Oh, you did? Oh. All right.
Right.
Semper Fi.
Yep.
Bill, we were curious last week about wanting to see your home videos from your vacation last month.
Oh, well, yeah, I will see about putting them on. Actually, maybe I'll do that next week. Maybe I can show the pictures from upstate New York. If I can edit my drone footage of Amboy, California.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, it's I'm having fun with the drone. So like I said, we were out in the middle of nowhere, and I really this Amboy crater, this volcano I mentioned, it's a mile off the road. And I figured this would be great to fly the drone out there and fly it around, because other people have done it. You get some great footage. Well, we got out there, and I have a little circle. It looks like a heliport sign, little H. The idea is you lay that on the ground, and then when the drone comes, you don't land it on dirt and kick up rocks or anything. Well, I put it down on the ground, and in the video, you'll see my friend Mike about a half a mile away running through a field, and it finally hit a piece of tumbleweed and stopped. The wind was insane. So I did not get to do the volcano, but they do have signs all over the place about how beautiful it is every spring for wildflower season. So maybe I can convince Carol we'll go out and look at the wildflowers and visit the volcano. She's a real
Irv, we also had, Bill and I were at 3 meetings at the new Disneyland Villa, Vacation Villas.
Oh, yeah.
And Bob Gurr and Garner Holt and Bill Cotter was there.
Well, Kathy's right there. She's the
Kathy arranged it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can show pictures of the villa and show how the other half of the other 1% live.
Yeah. The Kathys, how the Kathys of the world live.
Yeah.
It was so fun, especially the one that you came to for lunch. That was the best of the 3.
To defend us, to see how we'll never live again, probably. Once.
Yeah, I'll that's a good thought. That was a fun event, and I wanted to show the. I meant to, what it is. You take so many pictures, and you go on to the next thing, and I've got zillions of things. So I'll see about putting that together. It was a fun event, and I enjoyed it. For people that don't know who he is, Garner Holt is the guy that creates the world's best AA figures these days, and he's a really nice guy. He also owns his own steam train, and if you remember the movie The Great Race, he bought the hero cars from The Great Race. I mean, Garner Holt is who I want to be when I grow up. And on top of that, he's a really great guy for doing stuff for the community and teaching kids about what goes into an AA figure and trying to get people interested in doing this stuff as a career. He gives back tremendously. So I've talked to him about maybe joining us on a Saturday. It's like anything else.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, love to have him on one of these. That'd be cool.
He just had a big thing for the night we got back from our trip to our cruise. They were having a big thing, and I don't know, Kathy, did you go to Garner's thing?
I did. It was wonderful. Kim Irvine came. He had it was a Haunted Mansion theme. It was October 28th, and it was fabulous. I mean, tours of the studio. You know, we had dinner on one was catered. He had it like 250 people.
Yeah, he invited us to me to be his guest, and I said, "Oh, I'm looking at this airline schedule of when we're going to land, and is there any possible way just to go from the airport straight to the thing?" And it turned out there's just no way to do it. So I was really bummed out. That would have been a fun night.
Yeah, and
We looked into trying to get an earlier flight, and it was like, well, and luckily it worked out. I'm glad we didn't try it because we had to get from the airport to from the port in Brooklyn to Kennedy Airport, and in Jamaica that day they were taking down a bridge that caused across the highway. You know, and the highway went nowhere. I mean, it took us forever to get out there, so we wouldn't have made the earlier flight. We looked at it at our watches, and we were still sitting on the side of the road. So.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
great.
and everybody here would probably be interested that Behind the Scenes has season 2 out now.
Oh yeah, I've watched
Disney
all this
Plus.
already.
Yeah, I have to
Yep.
go and start watching some of that stuff. So I got one more episode of Loki I've been binge watching. So now the entire
yeah.
was coming to an end, and I had to go to bed because it was 1:30. So I got to finish watching Loki.
The
Yeah,
finale,
that was
I won't give you any
just
spoilers, but the finale is
what a
very
great series that was. Yeah.
Yeah, no spoilers. You know.
No, I won't. I won't.
Well, we were standing on the line when Star Trek came out and they killed Spock off, right? So all the rumors about everything about, whether it happened. So we were coming out of the movie and I said to somebody, just as a joke, I said something, "Oh man, I can't believe it was Kirk they killed off." And everybody,
and you lived.
Oh, you're mean. You're mean.
They did that with The Hobbit too, remember? Bilbo dies. Bilbo dies.
It's like something I would do.
well, the nice thing in science fiction is nobody ever dies, right?
Yeah,
Right.
they come
Oh,
back.
yeah. Black Widow is back.
Well, back when I did the comic books, I was in charge of all the computer systems for DC Comics for a while. And this is no joke. The lawyers actually kept files of the last time they had used a character. And they would periodically come and say, "We need to bring so and such back so we can renew the copyright and keep this thing going."
Ah.
They would have a thing where, in a flashback, all of a sudden somebody remembers the tale of, some character, the original Jay Garrick Flash or something. But they would periodically bring characters back from the dead just to keep the copyright alive.
Sure.
So
Yeah, there's origin stories.
yeah, exactly. Something like that, gee, Uncle Superman, tell us about, oh yeah, Mr. Mixelflix, okay.
Oh, right.
So, well, great. I hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you all next weekend.
I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Take care, Bill.
Take care.
Great
Bye.
show.
Take care. Bye. Bye.
Hey,
Thanks so